In this video, we're going to do a garden rehab. We had some garden beds that were rotted out. Also, we had an area of the garden that was infested with weeds. So I'm going to show you a low-cost, poison-free way to take care of that. If you don't have a garden, you need to get one. But if you do have a garden like mine and it needed a little bit of love, this is going to be an awesome video. Check it out. Our story starts a long, long time ago, back when life for me was a little bit simpler. I only had 2 kids, and keeping up with a garden wasn't that hard. Today I have 3 kids, that little guy's a teenager, and the garden, well, I don't have as much time as I used to. Yeah, it's pretty bad, isn't it? So this area, I pretty much gave up and just gave it to the weeds. My beds that I made out of 2x10s, they lasted pretty good. They were good for about 8 years. It's been 10 years, and they're pretty much rotted through. I didn't want to use pressure treated because of the chemicals involved. For my new garden beds, I still don't want to use pressure treated, and I want something that's gonna be free and last a little bit longer. Lucky for me, we had a massive storm blow through last summer, and I have an unlimited supply of logs. All right, enough with the sad music. How about some redemption music? Yeah, here we go. Little work montage. So to move these things, it would be really nice to have some sort of motorized thing, but this dolly worked just fine. I made several trips back and forth from the woods. These logs are made out of oak, so they should last a fair amount of time. If those 2x10s, those are made out of Douglas fir, they gave me about 8 to 10 years. I got to imagine I'd get probably 15 years out of the oak, hopefully. I made my garden beds 4 foot by 10 foot. That's a nice size. I can reach everything in the middle. I don't have to lean too far. And I let those big logs run wild, and then I trimmed them up with the chainsaw. And while it doesn't have to be perfect, it's nice if things look nice. Hey, my wife's making a special guest appearance. We're not mic'd up, but essentially said, "Oh, you're working so hard, you should rest. I'll rub your feet." I said, "No, I have more work to do." Every garden needs a trellis for your cucumbers and your green beans, and I'm using these 8-foot tall metal posts, and these I found in the woods as well. You can probably pick these up somewhere cheap, but I like them because they don't rot. And then I take some wire mesh that I'm cutting here. I guess this is like concrete mesh, and I cut it and then I wrap around the ends around that metal pole, and then it doesn't go anywhere. There's a gander at this stuff. This was at the local box store, and most guys use this to reinforce concrete, and that's why I had it laying around. And they make great tomato cages as well. You just snip off the end, so we have some of those wires that are running wild, and you're going to roll it into a circle. You're going to roll it up, and those loose ends, you're going to fold them over on itself, and it locks it into place. You got yourself a nice little, I use them for peppers or tomatoes. Perfect. The sad, forgotten area of the garden. I made my garden bigger at one point, then I could just never really keep up with it. So we're gonna turn this area into a pollinator garden. We're gonna rototill the weeds. We're gonna put some mulch down and then just plant native flowers. And this is gonna be a spot too where I can plant pumpkins and then just let it go, let it run wild. Yeah, gee, we're not sad anymore. We're happy again. We're working. We're doing pretty good. This is the first time we spent money. For 4 hours, it was $75 to rent. It's pretty easy to use. You can put it in gear with or without the rototiller running. You obviously want it running, so that's in the yellow there. And you just engage the handle, and you just kind of go for a ride. The thing's self-propelled, and it does a pretty good job of chopping everything up. I went over everything about 3 times. Our past sins are forgiven, and now we're going to build up the area where we're going to plant our pollinator garden, and then whatever else, pumpkins or acorn squash, whatever else wants to live there. And the area that I'm digging out, we're going to put some mulch down so we don't have any weeds to contend with. And wouldn't you know it, sometimes it's just your lucky day. On the way back from dropping that tiller off, there's a place by me that gives mulch away for free. And so I loaded my trailer up. Sometimes you can find tree crews and you can get them to dump off a load of mulch, but usually that's all you can handle. That's usually about 8 to 10 yards. So I probably have a good yard and a half maybe of free mulch. So we're still at $75.
All right, we got our native seed mix we got from the landscape store.
The guy at the landscape store said a little bit of seed goes a long way. But if you're like me, you have a hard time controlling yourself. If a little is good, then more has to be better. So I'm just going to sprinkle these seeds. I'm going to rake them in, and we're just going to see what happens. We're going to let nature take its course. To control the weeds in the walking path, I'm going to use these paper bags, and then I'm going to cover them with the free wood chips that we got. In the past, I've used cardboard, and that works really well. Newspaper works really well. Newspaper is not as easy to find, though. Nobody reads a newspaper anymore. So I'm laying down these bags, putting the mulch on top. This will do an excellent job for about 2 years of keeping the weeds down. I'll give you a tour of the garden, but first we're going to plant some beets. If you can't tell by now, I really enjoy the garden. It's such a peaceful place. You know, life is so fast-paced and hectic. Work is stressful, the stakes are high, but in the garden, life just slows down. Each spring, I always look forward to the garlic sprouting. It's the first sign of life. If we make mistakes in the garden, it's no big deal. You just try again next year. Next thing you know, you have a lot of those next years under your belt, and your beard's getting a little grayer. Those once helpful hands are now pushing you away, making their own little life. Here's to your garden. Let me know how it's going.